Welcome to Learn Biology, and now we're discussing the light-independent reactions in photosynthesis. To make it easier, we'll just write down the photosynthetic equation up here, which is 6CO2 plus 6H2O yields C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Now if we look at this right here, if we look at the equation, we can also rule out what we've already completed. So we've already used up the 6H2O in the light-dependent reaction, and we've already created the 6 oxygen in the light-dependent. Now all that's remaining is this 6CO2 and this C6H12O6 in glucose. So this is where the light-independent reaction comes in. The light-independent reaction is going to create the glucose molecule using the carbon dioxide. So we can start by saying, where does the light-independent reaction take place? Well, it takes place in the stroma. And in a chloroplast, this chloroplast right here, the stroma is the yellow portion. That is the fluid within the chloroplast. It is like the cytoplasm of the chloroplast. And another thing we have to discuss is the other names for light-independent reactions. The other names for light-independent reactions are the Calvin cycle, so Calvin cycle, the carbon fixation cycle, carbon fixation cycle, and the C3 cycle. So C3 cycle or passageway. Alright, so the next thing we have to discuss is the goal of the light-independent reaction. The main goal of the light-independent reaction is to create a glucose molecule. The rest is to oxidize the NADPH, which means convert NADPH to NADP, and the reason it's going to oxidize it to NADP is so that it can be reused in the light-dependent reaction, so it can be reused. And to dephosphorylate the ATP or convert ATP to ADP for the same reason, to reuse in the light-dependent reaction. We also need to discuss the cost of this light-independent. So right here we'll make a cost. The light-independent reaction costs a total of 18 ATP and 12 NADPH, and these were created in the light-dependent. So light-dependent fuels the light-independent. 18 ATP and 12 NADPH were created in the light-dependent so that it can fuel the light-independent. Alright, so now we can get to the actual cycle, Calvin cycle. So what we need to understand is that we're using the 6 carbon dioxide to create the glucose. So what happens is that in this cycle, 6 carbon dioxide react with this compound, a 5-carbon compound called rubulene diphosphate, or short for RUBP, so which is a 5-carbon compound, and so 6 RUBP react with the 6 CO2 to create 6 carbon compounds. However, these 6 carbon compounds are unstable, so they immediately turn into something called PGA. So 12 PGA are formed, which is another compound, a 3-carbon compound, and the PGA is the first stable compound in the Calvin cycle, or the light independent reaction. So first, we'll just make a first right there. And this is why the name 3C or C3 pathway is also used. The Calvin cycle is also known as the C3 pathway, meaning 3-carbon, because it is the first stable compound. PGA is the first stable compound, so the namesake C3 pathway. Alright, so the 12-PGA then react and create a new compound, another 3-carbon compound called PGAL. So PGAL, this is another 3-carbon, and 12 of these are formed. However, the conversion from PGA to PGAL costs, so it costs something. So the cost is 12 NADPH and 12 ATP. That's what it costs. Now, since the Calvin cycle recycles everything, these NADPH are oxidized into 12 NADP, and these 12 ATP are dephosphorylized, meaning lose phosphate and turn into 12 ADP, which will later be recycled back into the light dependent reactions. Now the 12 PGA move on, so let's just change the color back. These 12 PGA move on, and only, let's just do that, 12 PGA, only 10 move on. So 10 PGAL move on, again 3-carbon. 2 of them, the 2 PGAL, are then react and are converted into one glucose molecule. So the one glucose molecule, which is the whole point of photosynthesis, so glucose. However, the reaction has to continue because it is a cycle. So these 10 PGAL go back to the 6-RUBP, 6-rubulin, and it costs 6 ATP again. So 6 ATP are used to convert PGAL into RUBP. So 6 ATP, and these are dephosphorylated to go back to 6 ADP. So there we have the Calvin cycle, or the C3 pathway. All this work, including the light dependent, to create one glucose molecule. So the end products are, so here are the products. So products, we have one glucose molecule. We have 12 NADP and 18 ADP. So these will go back to the thylakoid so that they can be used in the light dependent. So back to the light dependent. So thank you for watching, and I hope you understood, and see you next time.